I canceled my wedding after my mother-in-law tried to change the guest list. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and I've been with my Emil for 3 years. We got engaged 9 months ago. It was the perfect moment, just the two of us, at a quiet little spot where we had our first date. After that, we started planning a wedding that would match that vibe, small, personal, around 50 guests, close friends, and family. We didn't want anything flashy, just something that felt like us. Emil is pretty close to his parents, and they've always been a big part of his life. His mom, especially, has a strong personality, always getting involved in every family decision. I don't have that same kind of closeness with my family. Things have always been a bit strained between us, but we keep it civil. So it wasn't too surprising when Emil's mom wanted to get involved in our wedding planning. At first, it seemed like she just wanted to help. She offered to cover the cost of the venue, which we thought was generous. Weddings are expensive, so having one less thing to worry about was great. Or at least that's what we thought. Not long after she offered, Emil's mom started making little suggestions. She mentioned how it might be nice to invite a few of her business associates to the wedding, people we didn't even know. Emil and I brushed it off at first, thinking she was just trying to be helpful. We figured she'd drop it if we didn't make a big deal out of it. But then, without telling us, she went ahead and booked a different venue altogether. And not just any venue, a much fancier place than what we'd originally chosen. Our plan was for something cozy and laid back, but this new venue was all about grand halls, chandeliers, and marble floors. She told us she thought our first choice was too modest for such a special occasion. I felt like our plans were getting hijacked, but Emil just kept saying, "It's just how she is. She means well." I tried to let it go, hoping it would all smooth out. But then the guest list became an issue. Emil's mom sent over a list with about 30 extra names, most of which were people we had never met, her colleagues, old friends, even some clients. It wasn't just an extra seat or two. It was almost doubling our guest list. I brought it up to Emil, and it turned into our first big argument about the wedding. He was caught between keeping the peace with his mom and respecting what we wanted for our own day. It got heated, and we ended up going to bed without really solving anything. A few days later, Emil's dad stepped in, trying to play the mediator. He sat us down and talked about how important it is to keep the family united, especially during special events like weddings. I could tell he was just trying to help, but it felt like more pressure to give in to what his mom wanted. It wasn't about a wedding anymore. It was about making sure no one's feelings got hurt, except maybe mine. That's when I reached out to my best friend. He's always been my go-to for advice, and he didn't hold back. He told me I needed to stand my ground before this whole thing spiraled out of control. "It's your wedding too," he said. "Don't let her take over." His words made a lot of sense, but it was easier said than done, especially with Emil being caught in the middle. The situation took a turn when Emil's mom hit us with an ultimatum. She said that if we didn't include the people on her list, she wouldn't pay for the venue. It felt like a power play, and I was over it. I told Emil we should just forget about the money and go back to our original plan, the simple, intimate wedding we both wanted.
Emil didn't know what to say.
He was torn between supporting me and not wanting to disappoint his mom. It was like he was stuck between two worlds, and I could see the strain it was putting on him. The stress was starting to get to me. I didn't know how to deal with all of it, so I decided to post about our situation on Reddit. I figured if I laid it all out there, maybe people could give me some perspective or at least tell me I wasn't being completely unreasonable. I didn't expect it to get much attention, but I just needed to vent. That's pretty much where things are right now. We're still trying to figure out what to do, and I'm hoping Emil can see why this is such a big deal for me, but honestly, I'm feeling pretty stuck. It's like every time I think we're getting closer to a solution, something else gets in the way. And with a wedding date creeping closer, I know we can't keep putting this off. After I posted our situation on Reddit, it blew up way more than I expected. People from all over weighed in, offering their opinions and advice. Most of them sided with me, saying I wasn't being unreasonable for wanting to keep our wedding how we originally planned. They told me to hold my ground, not to let anyone take control of our big day. It felt like the internet had my back, even if real life felt a lot messier. But things got more complicated when my post found its way back to Emil's mom. I'm not sure how it happened, but I suspect one of her friends or a relative saw it and connected the dots. After the Reddit post reached Emil's mother, everything fell apart quickly. The phone call came late at night, and his voice was heavy with exhaustion.
"She's furious," he said.
His mother had read every word, and the situation exploded within the family. She felt humiliated, as if her generosity and intentions had been unfairly exposed. But what hurt her the most was that Emil hadn't fully taken her side, leaving her even more resentful and making him feel like he'd failed as a son. The atmosphere between us became suffocating. Emil was torn, growing more distant, trying to balance his mother's expectations with ours. I saw the confusion in his eyes and the hesitation in his voice whenever he talked about the wedding. He was trying to please everyone, but in the process, he was losing himself, and inevitably losing me too. As much as I tried to stay calm, the situation was draining me. What should have been a special moment had turned into a silent war of wills. Then, one Saturday morning, Emil's mother showed up at our place without warning. Impeccably dressed, with a rigid posture, she walked in as if she owned the place. She sat on the couch and immediately began talking about how disappointed she was with everything. She didn't hold back, criticizing me for making a family matter public. Each word felt like a stab, and Emil sat silently beside her, as if he weren't even there. "You're ruining everything," she said coldly, locking eyes with me, waiting for me to back down. Anger boiled inside me, but I held it in. I wanted to scream that this wedding was supposed to be about me and Emil, not about her. But instead, I stayed quiet, looking at Emil, silently begging him to stand up for me. He just lowered his head, unable to choose a side. In that moment, I knew something had irreversibly changed. I was on my own in this fight. After she left, the silence in the apartment was unbearable. I asked Emil directly if he really wanted to marry me or if he was just going along with it out of inertia. He couldn't answer. He just stood there looking lost. That was the final blow. I got up, went to the bedroom, and started packing my things. I couldn't stay in this situation any longer, fighting a battle I shouldn't have to fight. As I packed, Emil finally tried to say something. "Please don't do this. We'll figure it out." But his voice was weak, as if even he didn't believe what he was saying. I paused for a moment, looking at him, and saw a man trapped between pleasing his mother and living his own life. But he didn't move. He didn't do anything to stop me from leaving, and that was all the confirmation I needed. I zipped up my bag, grabbed my keys, and walked out without saying another word. The sound of the door closing was both a relief and a heartbreak. I knew that from this moment on, there was no turning back. I called my best friend and told him what had happened. He listened quietly and then, with all the calm in the world, said, "You did the right thing. No one deserves to start their life like that." In the following days, I received a few messages from Emil trying to talk, but I had already reached my breaking point. I deleted every message without replying. It didn't take long before I heard that his mother was spreading the story to the family, painting me as ungrateful and irresponsible for walking away from the wedding. But I didn't care. For the first time in months, I felt free. I started focusing on myself again. I picked up old hobbies, spent more time with friends, and slowly began to find myself. It wasn't easy, but it was liberating. Emil and I never spoke again. I heard from mutual friends that he eventually grew even more distant from his mother after I left, but by then it no longer mattered. My story with him was over. What was supposed to be the start of a new life together became the opportunity for me to rediscover myself. Maybe one day Emil will realize what he lost, but by then, I'll be far too gone to care. In the months that followed, the weight of the breakup slowly gave way to a new sense of determination. I wasn't going to let that situation break me. More than that, I decided that if they thought they could walk over me and come out unscathed, they were deeply mistaken. The wound was still open, and the only way forward was through closure, a kind of closure that left no room for regrets. I started by reorganizing my life. I moved to a new city, found a new job, and gradually rebuilt my independence. At the same time, I kept quiet tabs on Emil and his family through mutual friends and social media. It didn't take long to hear that his mother was still spreading twisted stories about me, painting me as ungrateful and unstable, blaming me for ruining her son's relationship. Little did she know, the game was far from over. Then I heard a rumor. Emile was engaged to another woman named Sophie. They had met only a few months after I left. The news didn't hurt me as much as it motivated me. It was the spark I needed to carry out my plan for revenge. Sophie was young and insecure, clearly unaware of what she was walking into. And me? I had the information and the drive to turn their relationship into a disaster before it even began. I started small, sending Sophie anonymous messages, warning her to be cautious of her future mother-in-law. I was patient, planting little seeds of doubt over time. Stories about how Emile's mother had tried to control our wedding and how she was already overstepping with Sophie's plans. It worked. Sophie began confronting Emile, and their argument started. They were subtle at first, just small disagreements, but I knew how to bide my time. Meanwhile, I created fake profiles to connect with Sophie's friends and colleagues, slowly leaking unsettling details about Emile's past. I revealed how he never stood up for me, how he let his mother meddle in every important decision. Each piece of information was a quiet ticking bomb, waiting for the perfect moment to explode. And then it did. As the wedding preparations reached their peak, Sophie started seeing the truth. The helpful mother-in-law she thought she had was now trying to control everything. Her arguments with Emile intensified until, 1 week before the wedding, something happened that I hadn't expected. Sophie reached out to me directly. I got a message from her saying she needed to know the truth about Emile and what had happened between us. This was the final blow I had been waiting for. I agreed to meet with Sophie, not because I wanted anything from her, but because it was my chance to end this story on my terms. When we met, Sophie looked nervous, as if she already knew what I was going to say. I held nothing back. I told her everything, every manipulation from Emile's mother, every moment he stood by in silence when I needed him the most. I explained that she was on the verge of living the same nightmare I had gone through. She listened in silence, and when I finished, I could see in her eyes that something had shifted. 3 days later, I heard the wedding was off. There wasn't a formal announcement, but the news spread quickly through Emile's social circles. He tried to contact me one last time, but I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. Sophie moved on, and I knew she had escaped what could have been a lifetime of control and manipulation. As for Emile and his mother, I heard things between them deteriorated quickly. His mother never forgave him for losing 2 fiancés in a row, and he ended up cutting ties with her. It was ironic, in a way. The woman who had fought so hard to control him now found herself alone, and the son she tried so desperately to protect had become a stranger to her. For me, it was the closure I needed. It wasn't about lost love or lingering anger anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity and showing that no one walks over me without consequences. Today, I look back without regret, not because of the revenge itself, but because I closed that chapter once and for all. And the best part? Knowing that while they're trapped in their regrets and broken relationships, I'm free, ready to live life on my own terms. In the months that followed the cancellation of Sophie and Emile's wedding, I finally felt like I was rebuilding my life. The sense of freedom was like a breath of fresh air. The pain and frustration that once consumed me were now replaced by a quiet determination. I knew that not only had I escaped a toxic relationship, but I was also ready to give myself the chance to thrive. If life had given me a blank page, I was going to write a whole new story on it. With more time and energy, I decided to invest in an old dream, starting my own event planning business. I had always had a natural talent for organizing and creating unique experiences, and ironically, the chaos of my canceled wedding gave me the push I needed to pursue that career. I started small, organizing events for friends and colleagues, and soon my reputation began to grow. At first, it was tough. I had to learn about management, marketing, and finances from scratch, but I had never been more motivated. Every contract I secured felt like a personal victory, proof that I could build something on my own, without relying on anyone. Within months, the business began to thrive. Referrals started pouring in, and suddenly my calendar was packed with weddings, parties, and corporate events. Each success, was a reminder that I had made the right choice by walking away from Emil and his family. Meanwhile, I heard from mutual friends that things weren't going well for Emil and his mother. Their relationship had never recovered. Sophie had moved on, and from what I gathered, she was much better off without him. His mother, once a powerful and controlling figure, was now increasingly isolated. It seemed that all the control she tried to exert over her son's life had only succeeded in driving him further away. Then, something unexpected happened. One of my clients turned out to be a friend of Sophie's. During a meeting to discuss her event, I casually mentioned that I knew Emil. Her reaction was one of surprise, but instead of awkwardness, she smiled and said, "You dodged a bullet." And so did I. We laughed together, and in that moment, I felt a deep sense of peace, as if all the pain and frustration from the past were finally behind me. Over time, my business grew so much that I started hiring staff. What began as a small personal project evolved into a thriving franchise. I opened offices in multiple cities, and my name became a go-to in the event planning industry. I was living a life I never imagined, with financial independence and a strong network of friends and colleagues who genuinely supported me. Then one day, I received an unexpected email. It was from Emil. He apologized for everything and asked to meet and talk. I deleted the email without responding. There was nothing left to say. I had moved on, and the life I built was proof that I didn't need any explanation or apology from him. As the years went by, I started giving talks on overcoming adversity and entrepreneurship. People loved hearing how a tough situation could become the starting point for something incredible. I didn't hide my past. Instead, I turned it into a powerful lesson about the importance of prioritizing yourself and never settling for less than you deserve. Today, when I look back, I see that everything happened exactly as it should have. Not only did I escape a life that would have suffocated me, but I also built something extraordinary from the wreckage. Emil and his mother? They became nothing more than a footnote in the story of my life. While they were stuck in a cycle of regrets and poor choices, I was living fully, following my dreams and setting my own rules. And the best part? Knowing that every one of my achievements is proof that the best revenge is success.